Imagine taking a legacy COBOL system, which would theoretically take 2 months just to model, understand, and modernize, and doing a modernization to Java in less than 2 hours using AI. I did it, and I'm going to show you how. Hey everyone, Danilo Brizola here from Surfando.com IA, and today I'm going to tell you how I took an open source project from GitHub in COBOL, yes, COBOL, and completely transformed it into Java using Windsurf, a tool we've already talked about here, in which we are specialists and the official representative of Windsurf in Brazil. And what's cool is that more than just a technical study, it was an experiment to prove a thesis. Is it possible to use AI to automate part of the reverse engineering, modeling, and migration process and cut down months of work? So, what do you think? Stick with this video and you'll find out by the end. Well, guys, we've got a new setup here. Just to let you know that our goal is really to start producing some cool content about technology, talking about various things, but mainly about how artificial intelligence can speed up software engineering processes and so on. And there are other things I want to bring to you here as well, so you'll notice a new setup and, in short, new features in the videos. Things are going to look a bit more professional than in the last videos we've recorded here on the channel, all right? But today, what's the main goal? It's to talk to you about modernizing a COBOL system to a Java system. So this was something that many clients, ATS partners, and also people who are just curious about artificial intelligence in the context of software development have asked about. Is it any good? Does it really work? Does it solve the problem? Or does it actually create more problems for software engineers? And the idea behind doing this project was precisely to clear up and demystify the notion that artificial intelligence might create more problems than it solves. I actually believe the opposite, that it will bring much more productivity, and in fact, it's already bringing a lot more productivity. And that's exactly what I want to show you here right away by demonstrating this implementation I did, this modernization of a COBOL system to Java. First of all, how did I do this, right? So how did I go about structuring this modernization? First, I needed a COBOL system. So I searched the internet for a more complete system, a slightly more comprehensive project in COBOL, so that I could do this demonstration, so we could prove this idea of modernizing a legacy COBOL system to a somewhat more modern system using Java. And in this case, I'm using Java 21, okay? And Java 21 is a version that will be supported until after 2030. So that's why I'm using this version. So I found this repository you're seeing here. It's the COBOL Airlines repository, which was created by this user. I'd like to give a mention here to this GitHub user. Let me get his name here, Wayne Querestes. Querestes, thank you very much for sharing your COBOL project with the world. So here it is, referenced Rodriguez. I think it's Alexandre Rodriguez Querestes. At least that's the name I'm seeing here on GitHub. So I took this project, which I saw was a complete project that already had a series of business rules structured, the COBOL Airlines. And from this COBOL project, we moved to our beloved Windsurf, and here inside Windsurf, we made the magic happen, okay? So as you can see here in Windsurf, we have all the folders from the COBOL project, okay? So all the models. And guys, I don't know COBOL like I did a little research, just a bit really, just to understand a bit of COBOL structure, how it works, but I'm not even going to try to explain it to you. Because basically what was the first step for us to do this modernization? Use artificial intelligence for what? To have it a document, this system. Because artificial intelligence knows COBOL. I don't know it, but artificial intelligence does. So the first step was to have the AI understand the entire technical architecture of the COBOL project and ask it to create documentation. So it produced documentation, as you can see here on the screen, a very thorough documentation I'm not going to go through the step-by-step here. In fact, the idea of this video, folks, is to keep it really short and show you the kickoff, how the initial steps of structuring this project went and how it's already running in Java. So I'll very quickly go through the documentation that I guided the AI to create. So it includes everything from the technical architecture of the COBOL system, all the system documentation, right? It created this here. It documented all the main tables used, the main flows, basically the entire part related to system access. It generated all the documentation based on, right, going back here, based on the entire data structure, the whole structure of the COBOL project here, right? So here, look, there's the part, right, about the database here, right? All the create DB statements are here with all the fields and so on, okay? Look at this. This is really cool, what I'm about to show you now. Where is it? Let me find it here. There it is. Look at the login screen here. What a wonderful login, huh? This takes us back to the 80s, doesn't it? So the AI first did all the documentation for the system, and not only documented the business side of the system, but also the technical side, as I showed you earlier. And then I asked it to structure documentation for each module. So it created documentation for each module, a well-structured documentation of the COBOL in each module, right? Authentication module, database module, and the data entry module. Actually, I asked it to have this understanding, of which modules there are. And from that understanding to create all this documentation, right? So all this information that you see here, it was extracted from the code, directly from the COBOL code. So that was the first step. And that's what I've always been discussing with our clients, with our partners, with developers on our team. The first thing you want to do when building a system using artificial intelligence, what should you do? The first thing, aim to build structured documentation. So this structured documentation, there are a number of ways to write good documentation. And today, with artificial intelligence, we actually use AI itself to write this documentation, right? So, yeah, often even documentation written by a person, we might forget some elements. And sometimes, even in the way we write, we might end up writing in a somewhat ambiguous way. So the cool thing here is that since we asked the AI to write, based on existing code, it will write in a structured way without ambiguity, precisely because it has already analyzed and understood the legacy code. So that's really great. So the first step is to structure the documentation. After we've structured the documentation, remember that in the first video where I talked about Windsurf, I mentioned structuring the local rules of Windsurf. Without that, never start a project. Never start a software development project. With artificial intelligence, without first structuring the rules of Windsurf very well. And here, let me show you. We have the global rules, right? So these are my global rules, and we also have the rules for this particular project of mine. So the rules for this project, here I created them specifically for this project. At first, I was thinking about doing an upgrade to Java 17, but then I said, no, let's go straight to Java 21, because Java 17 is supported only until 2029, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe 2028. So I said, no, let's do Java 21, because the support lasts even longer. So since our goal is to show this so that systems within companies, systems that are 10, 15, 20, 30 years old, can now be modernized. So the idea is to really focus on this type of system and give these systems a long life, right? That's why we thought of using Java 21 so that the support will last much longer, right? So I structured here the rules of Windsurf. And again, this was super important. If you haven't seen how it works, how to do it in the previous video, where I show a system that we developed in less than an hour, actually, that I developed in less than an hour using Windsurf. You can check out that video. It should be somewhere around here. Yeah, so that's it. After having structured all of this, the documentation, all the rules, then we started the development phase. And one very important point, guys, something that's extremely relevant when you're passing information to an LLM, to a language model, and in this case, for this project, I used two models to develop it. I used Grok for part of the documentation and structuring, and I used Sonnet 3.7 here, the one from Anthropic. Yeah, I used the thinking model, right? The thinking model from Sonnet 3.7 to handle the development part, okay? So it's also very important to choose the best model depending on, well, the information you're going to work with, the type of task you're going to do. From there, I asked the model to create an implementation plan. So once you provide the implementation plan, as you give more and more context, and I really want this to be very clear. For good software development, good software engineering using AI, you need to provide as much context as possible to the LLM, to the model. That's why I talk about creating documentation. That's why I mentioned the Windsurf rules. The more context you give, the better it responds. So I asked it to generate a complete implementation plan. Look, and here it created the entire implementation plan. Which language, right? The web framework we're going to use, what kind of persistence, the database. In short, everything laid out properly. It created this entire implementation architecture, right? And what's really cool here is that not only did the AI create the implementation plan for me, but it also checks what has already been implemented and what hasn't been implemented yet. So this helps a lot. As you can see, several items here are already checked as implemented. And there are some things that still need to be implemented, like the unit testing part and so on. Okay? And then after that, of course, the instructions were given to carry out the construction. I'm not going to go into the prompts that were used here and all that, because otherwise the video would get too long. In the other videos, we'll dive deeper and deeper into the topic of prompts, how we can get the most out of them to be productive and accurate in software development using Windsurf here. Okay? So let's get started. Let's go now so we can do the test here, right? This here is the system. It's already there, nice and neat. The system, a web system, modernized Java 21. Look, folks, and it's already working within all the main architectural paradigms and everything with API services all nicely set up. So there's even a swagger here, so you can see all the API services, all the available services here, right? The database as well, please. So the database here, this one is an in-memory database for development, right? Which, if I'm not mistaken, I think Spring Boot itself already provides to make development easier, so you don't need to install or set up a PostgreSQL instance, for example, on your machine. So you use this in memory. When you go to production, then obviously you change the environment variables so you can point to a server, to a PostgreSQL database server, or something like that, right? So this here is already 100% functional. And here, this is a simple system, right? It's an airline system, COBOL Airlines. It's a system that simulates an airline. And now I'm going to do a little navigation here for you. So the login part is already working. So I log in here. Once the login is persisted, I can already access all the reservation management features, make a new reservation here as well, or book an already existing flight. So I can enter it here. What else can you do? You can search for reservations. Let me do a search here from São Paulo to Rio de Janeiro on June 1st. All right, it already brings it up. The search is done. and I can already book this flight. So all the information, everything that was in the COBOL system for Java in less than 2 hours. All this development was done in less than 2 hours. Why was this done, folks? Oh, to show off the power of AI? No, not just for that, not just to show the power of AI. Obviously, we could later go deeper here, you see. Let me open my Windsurf again. We could go deeper and analyze the entire part, the part of the U code that was generated, right? Do a full code review here. Let me put it here right from. Anyway, all the code that was written, we could do that. That's not the main goal of this video. The goal of the video was really to show something functional that was modernized from COBOL, a very old language from the 1960s, just so you have an idea. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, COBOL started in '59, still in the 1950s. But just imagine a solution that was developed in a language from the 1950s, modernized to Java. And the purpose of recording this video is to show the potential we have to do a migration, a modernization, really focusing on the business rules part and using artificial intelligence to our advantage. So that it does what would take us a lot of time. Just to create all the documentation, just to do a full analysis of each class, each procedure, each database structure there in COBOL, that would take months to do, at least 2 months, and that's an important point. I asked the AI to make an estimate, and the AI gave 2 months to do an estimate. It made an estimate of 2 months just to do the whole project understanding part. And not just understanding the project, but also the modeling. Imagine 2 months. So for the entire project to do the modeling, plus the development and everything, it gave an estimate of 8 months to complete the development. Just imagine, we did it in less than 2 hours. Obviously, there's here we just did the basics, right? In larger applications, in legacy applications, with a much bigger code base, with much more code and everything, it would take more time, but what I want to show you here is the possibility. It's possible. There are extremely powerful tools for this, and Windsurf is what we use. As I've already mentioned, I said this in other videos, and I think it's an important point to bring up. Here at Snow, we are the only company in Brazil that is the official enterprise representative of Windsurf. So we know this tool very well. And whatever questions you have, I want to see them from you in the comments. Whatever doubts you have, if we can go deeper into any specific part, please let us know in the comments. Go ahead and leave your like. Leave your comments so we can see what kind of content would make sense for you to see here, what other things you'd like to see, more hands-on stuff, and so on, right? This video was more of a demonstration. It wasn't so much hands-on. It was really more to show the functionality, the platform, what's being pulled in, what's not, what's already coming in. Basically the whole thing, yeah, the back end working, the front end here working as well. That was the main purpose, a demonstration. But let us know in the comments what else you think we could share here that you're curious about. All right? That's it. Thank you very much for your time, to everyone who watched until the end, and see you next time. God bless. Thanks.